Hey guys, welcome back to Planet Coaster, and we're back here in Cedarwood Valley. And I know it's been a little bit of a long time since we were in Cedarwood Valley, and I apologize for that, but there's a couple of things that came up. First and foremost, I've said it once, I've said it before, I've said it that I have a new job, and we're actually going through quarterlies right now, so it's just a very, very busy time for us. So like this is kind of on the back burner, and I actually had a lot of footage that was recorded, and I don't even know if I'm going to keep some of that in the park, although I do know that I will keep this part that you're seeing now, and everything in your video, in this video that you're seeing, I'm going to keep. But there's a lot of things that I didn't keep, and those things were along the lines of kind of buildings on the main streets that were next to the observation tower, mostly because some of them were just a little bit too detailed for what I kind of envisioned this park should really look like. And the reason they were too detailed is because they were very Halloween, they were very Halloween themed, and pretty much everyone just went crazy over the Halloween stuff when it first came out, and like so did I. I actually love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, and autumn is my favorite time of the year. Like, it's just the best. So I actually created a bunch of little Main Street houses, or like, yeah, just Main Street houses, and I want to show you actually pictures of them now. And these are kind of based off of like the Limax like spooky house things, which I have like too many of to even like count at this point. So that's where my inspiration for those came, and I just want to kind of I kind of just wanted to use these new pieces for the Halloween update. But then again, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to keep them on the main street where you saw them. Odds are probably not, because they just don't seem like they're something that would fit in Cedarwood Valley. But if you disagree, maybe I will keep them. I'm just really not sure. Another thing I kind of wanted to mention, another reason why I loved Halloween so much is because I actually used to like run like my own like house of like, we had a graveyard in the front, and we had like an actual maze. I'll post a couple pictures of them now here for you guys to see. But yeah, I was like really into it, and I still am. I just, obviously this year I didn't have enough time to do it. When I was in college, I didn't have enough time to do it. But when I was in high school, I would do like the full-on, like we had a maze and shit, and like, it was pretty fun. But like I said, we don't really do that anymore, for a number of reasons. So that being said, that's why I haven't really posted anything in a long time. And I know I did post Fenrir, and that was like my 100 subscriber special. Thank you all very much for subscribing to the channel. I think that's going to be a joke of mine, is how little subscribers I have, and I'm just going to go ahead and celebrate every single time that we get to a very minute point in something that I can kind of say is special, but not really. Kind of going off on a tangent here, but that's kind of what we do. So anyways, what am I building? That's a great question. So this is going to end up being Wildcat Theater. And now this was kind of like a last minute sort of idea of mine, where I was like not really sure what I wanted to put in this little area of the park. And what it came down to is that Cedarwood Valley, being a valley, needed more slopes. And the reason for this was I went to Six Flags New England, which is in Agawam, Massachusetts, I think, or something like that, and I loved it. And one of my favorite parts about it was gradual slopes. I fell in love with gradual slopes, and yes, that is a very weird thing. But one of the main streets in this, or like the main street in the in Six Flags New England, had a gradual slope, and for some reason I loved it. Not a lot of parks in Planet Coaster you'll see have like very successful gradual slopes, or slopes at all. A lot of the parks that have this sort of realistic theme, it's very difficult to have a realistic theme and actually have topography like changes. So that was one of my big goals, and one of the ways of doing that was like building this theater and the seats on the side of a hill that were looking towards Wildcat. Wildcat being the roller coaster, which is why I called it Wildcat Theater. So I don't know if you caught it, but I actually had to move the track a little bit to put in this theater. And if you're thinking like that probably ruined like all of the smoothing I did, like don't worry. As you'll see soon enough, Wildcat is going to change dramatically, and we'll go over that when the time comes. So right now what I'm doing is I'm actually putting in like a whole bunch of little candy coconut pieces, but when you color them brown, they look a little bit like mulch. And I learned this from Bro Coaster, and I don't know where they learned it from, so I'm sorry for using them as a source irrationally, but I just think it gives it a little bit of a texture that makes a lot of sense when they had to build this stage in this area. It was obvious that they couldn't build it on the grass, and they didn't want to put in gravel here because it was kind of this natural feel, so they wanted to put in mulch instead. And you can see me now putting in a whole bunch of decorative sort of vines and branches, and these weren't like actually supposed to be meant like, oh yeah, there's trees growing underneath there. Those were supposed to be like legitimate, like that's part of the atmosphere of Wildcat Theater, is that it's known for having vines and it's known for being a very natural sort of setting. You can see me putting in these little planks here, like kind of like, it's not really a pathway, but you can kind of like see that it might be one. And then I went in building this backstage area. And this is definitely my favorite backstage area of the park so far, because I don't really have many, but it included a lot of things that were very central to what I wanted to do in this park. 1 being scale, 2 being realism, and 3 being these gradual slopes. And the way I accomplished that was by building this retaining wall that you see here, by flipping, these windows around backwards. And it doesn't look very good at the moment, but it actually turns out pretty nice, and you'll see that in the cinematics. You can agree or disagree, or not, that's whatever, it's up to you. So yeah, anyways, I did a lot of stuff off camera this episode as well, and that ranged in my park from doing these little things like this, like just putting in foliage where there wasn't foliage before, and then, as big as completely revamping Venom. Venom being the aerodynamics multi-looper in the front of the park. And I think that might now be my favorite coaster in the park. And I know you're thinking, like, why would my favorite coaster in the park be this one that I did before I even knew about the 4-meter technique, before I even started the series, and that had nothing to do with it. And I'm kind of giving away the spoiler here, but I built it as if it was, a parking lot coaster. And I haven't seen anything like that in Planet Coaster yet. I haven't seen anything like that in this game. And it just came to me when I was at Six Flags. I was like, holy crap, like, no one's done this before. Like, why hasn't someone, just built a coaster on a parking lot? So maybe I'll put some screenshots in right now so you can get a little sneak peek of it. But I built it. I had the custom billboards to make everything look a little bit older, and then change the colors of the lines around so they didn't look like the brand new parking lot that I built in a previous episode of Cedarwood Valley. So you can see me after I built that backstage area. I went in to build, the lighting fixtures of the actual theater itself. As you can see, I didn't want to use white light. I wanted it to be a little more realistic than just white light, so I included, the 4 main colors of light that you would usually see on a stage or on lighting fixtures for the FX of a stage. And I just copied them over a bunch of times, and it actually created, like, the lighting Planet Coaster is amazing. And as you can see, when these lights blend, they actually blend correctly, and it looks like white light. And that was something that was incredibly satisfying for me, because it's pretty obvious that these lights are not the right color. I mean, sorry, they're not white in color, but when you add them all together, they actually turn out that way. So along with the lights, of course, is I had to build, a big speakers chain. I don't even know what to call this. A fixture for speakers, and they all have a very distinct look. Whereas they have that sort of curve or that arch in the back of them, and I don't know if it's designed that way, or if it's the way it hangs, or if it's just both of those things combined. But it's something that is very obvious and very common in every single speaker hanging system that I've ever seen. So that was just one of the things that, kind of had to be done. So now talking more about Venom, since you're not going to see any of my revamps being done here, it actually took me a lot longer than I thought it would, because if you've ever built a parking lot, you know how long that takes, and building a fake parking lot does not take any less time. But I do love the way that it turned out. And hopefully you'll like it too. You'll see it towards the end of this video in the cinematics. And the way that I kind of got inspiration for it was the Great American Scream Machine, which was from another Six Flags park in New Jersey. And since then, unfortunately, that ride was taken out and replaced by a B&M stand-up coaster called the Green Lantern. But for the longest time, it was a humongous aero looper, and the actual cars in Planet Coaster are inspired by the cars that were on the Great American Scream Machine. And I'm pretty sure at one point in Planet Coaster Alpha or Beta, there actually was the Great American Scream Machine logo on the front of the Aero looping coaster, instead of saying the Great American Aero or the American Aero. I don't know what it says right now. But actually, I'll post two pictures side by side right now, so you can kind of get the feel of what I mean. So at this little entrance plaza at the top of the hill for the Wildcat Theater, I wanted to build kind of like a not too difficult build, but something that was interesting enough to catch the eye from all angles. And now this was a really difficult task because, like I said, I fell in love with gradual slopes, and I had to have a gradual slope going from here all the way to the observation tower, and then all the way from here to where we have the actual Wildcat coaster plaza, and where we have, you know, the entrance to Skyland, all those sort of things. They actually give really good views of this little spire here that I made pretty quickly out of custom pieces. So it actually turned out quite well compared to what I thought it was going to be like. But it was definitely a difficult task to get these slopes correct. And as you can see, I kind of went with the same rustic wood sort of feel that are in other parts of this park, and it's one of my most comfortable mediums right now in Planet Coaster, but it's also one of the most beautiful and successful ones in total. There's not a lot of styles that I like better than this right now that I've seen from other creators, and I do have a lot of ideas for other styles, but this one, it really hits home for me in terms of the way Cedarwood Valley should feel. One of my favorite parts actually about this little entrance plaza here are the little steps to the right. So even if you can't see the gradual slope because you're walking on it, just seeing those stairs makes you know that you're on a slope, and that one little detail can change your whole perspective on what the plane is like in terms of being flat or being a little bit of a slope. And so in this last part, before we go into the cinematics, I put this sort of extra lights on the back side of the entrance plaza to Wildcat Theater, and I'm kind of deciding how detailed I want to get in the entrance plaza. And right now it's not very detailed in the front, and I think that's okay. But we'll probably revisit that in other episodes. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to update Cedarwood Valley, but here you go. And I hope you guys enjoy the cinematics, and I will see you guys next time.